I clutched the railing of the upstairs balcony, my knuckles turning white as the first crack of gunfire shattered the evening calm. Abilene, Kansas, 1875. Hell, it was just another Tuesday in this godforsaken frontier town. But this time the outlaws weren't content with rustling cattle on the outskirts. No, they rode straight into the heart of it, bold as brass, their revolvers blazing like fireworks on the 4th of July. Bullets ricocheted off the wooden facades of the shops lining Main Street, splintering glass and sending folks scrambling for cover. Inside the Golden Lasso Saloon, where I spent my nights earning a living the only way a woman like me could in this wild land, we all hit the floor. The piano player's tune died mid-note, glasses shattered, and the air filled with the acrid bite of gunpowder drifting in through the swinging doors. My heart pounded like a war drum, not just from the fear, Lord knows I'd seen my share of brawls and shootouts, but from the raw, unfiltered terror that gripped everyone in that moment. Madame Thorne, the iron-willed proprietor who ran this place with a smile that could charm a snake and a whip hand that kept us girls in line, barked orders from behind the bar. "Stay down, all of you! This ain't our fight!" Her voice cut through the chaos like a knife, but I could see the flicker of worry in her eyes. The Golden Lasso was her kingdom, and outlaws like these could burn it to the ground without a second thought. Down below, in the main room, Lily May, one of the younger girls who'd only been here a few months, whimpered softly, her wide blue eyes darting toward the doors. She was fresh off a wagon train from back east, still clinging to dreams of finding a husband and settling down on some homestead. Poor thing didn't know yet that dreams like that got trampled under boot heels out here. "Clara," she whispered, grabbing my arm as I crouched beside her. "What if they come in? What if—" "Hush now," I murmured, pulling her close. My own voice was steady, honed from years of pretending nothing could touch me. But inside, a storm raged. I'd been in Abilene long enough to know that violence like this didn't just pass. It left scars, changed trajectories, and tonight, with the autumn wind howling outside like a banshee, carrying the chill of winter on its breath, I felt a shift in the air. Something was coming. Something that would upend my carefully guarded world. The gunfire peaked in a frenzy, shouts of "Get 'em, boys!" and the thunder of hooves pounding the dirt street. I peeked over the balcony just in time to see Sheriff Harlan. No, wait, that wasn't right. Our sheriff was Old Man Wilkins, pot-bellied and more interested in his whiskey than his badge. But there, in the thick of it, a lone figure stood his ground outside the mercantile across the way. Tall, broad-shouldered, his duster coat flapping in the wind like a flag of defiance. He fired back with precision, dropping one outlaw from his saddle with a single shot. The raiders scattered, their leader cursing as they wheeled their horses and fled into the gathering dusk, leaving two bodies in the dust. The town fell silent, save for the moans of the wounded and the distant yelp of a dog. Folks emerged slowly, like prairie dogs after a storm, assessing the damage. Inside the Golden Lasso, we rose too, brushing off our dresses and forcing smiles back onto our faces. Business had to go on. Cowboys and drifters would still come pouring in, seeking warmth, whiskey, and whatever else we offered to chase away the loneliness of the trail. But then, as the echoes faded, the saloon doors creaked open, not with the frantic push of a fleeing man, but with a deliberate, measured step. Boots thudded against the worn floorboards, steady and unhurried. I straightened, smoothing the folds of my emerald green gown, the one that hugged my curves just right, drawing eyes without giving away too much. My mask was back in place. Clara Voss, the unflappable beauty of the Golden Lasso, ready to charm and distract. Yet, something about this stranger made my pulse skip. He wasn't like the usual crowd, the rowdy cowpokes fresh off a drive, pockets heavy with pay and hearts light with liquor. No, this man carried himself with a quiet authority, his duster scarred by dust and what looked like old bullet holes. His face was weathered, etched by sun and sorrow, with a jaw set like granite and eyes that scanned the room, not with hunger, but with a probing intensity. Broad shoulders spoke of hard labor, wrangling steers, or maybe something bloodier. He was tall, over 6 feet, and moved like a man who'd faced down death more times than he cared to count. Madame Thorne emerged from behind the bar, her ample bosom heaving as she adjusted her corset, flashing that honey-sweet smile. "Well now, stranger, you look like you've seen some action out there. Can I help you? A drink on the house, perhaps? Or something a mite warmer?" Her eyes twinkled with that practiced allure, sizing him up for what he might spend. His gaze flicked to her, then up to the balcony, straight to me. It lingered just a beat too long, not leering, but searching, as if he saw right through my facade to the weary soul beneath. A shiver ran down my spine, unbidden and unwelcome. "Lookin' for honest work, ma'am," he said, his voice gravelly, laced with a southern drawl that hinted at battlefields far from these plains. Kind, though, unexpectedly kind, like a man who'd tasted too much bitterness and chosen gentleness instead. Madame Thorne arched a brow, her fan fluttering. "Work, you say? Cowpoke? Gunslinger? Or maybe you're hankering for a bit of company tonight? We got the finest in Abilene right here." She nodded toward me and Lily May, her implication clear as day. He shook his head firmly, not a hint of temptation in his eyes. "No, ma'am. I've had my fill of taking what's not mine. Just need a job, fixin' things, haulin' supplies. Whatever you got." For the first time in years, a spark of bewilderment ignited in my chest. Men in Abilene took land, cattle, women. It was the law of the frontier, etched into every dusty trail and blood-stained street. But this one, he defied it. I studied his hands, rough, calloused from ropes and reins, not the soft palms of a gambler. His stance screamed ex-soldier, ramrod straight, like he'd marched in lines during the war between the states. The Civil War had ended a decade ago, but its ghosts still haunted men like him. "You rode in the cavalry," I said flatly from the balcony, my voice carrying down like an accusation. Lily May gasped beside me, but I couldn't stop. Something about him rattled me, made me want to poke at his armor. His jaw clenched, just a fraction, but he met my gaze without flinching. "Long ago, miss. Union side. Now I prefer herdin' steers over buryin' brothers. Less regret that way." His words hung in the air, simple yet profound, shaking the foundations of everything I knew. Men like him were supposed to be broken. Drunkards drowning their nightmares in bottles, or brutes lashing out at the world. Not this quiet force, this man who looked at me not as a conquest, but as, what, a person? It made me question my walls, the ones I'd built brick by brick after my father sold me to Madame Thorne at 10 years old to settle his gambling debts. I'd waited for him to come back, crying into my pillow for weeks, but he never did. That betrayal taught me love was a lie, a gambler's bluff I'd folded on long ago. Madame Thorne chuckled, breaking the tension. "Well, ain't you a rare breed? We could use a hand around here, stable needs tendin', and with that shootout, half the town's spooked. Name's Madame Thorne. And you?" "Harlan Reed," he replied, tipping his Stetson. His eyes flicked back to me, and I felt exposed, like he could see the scars hidden beneath my silk and smiles. "Clara Voss," I said before I could think better of it. Why, I didn't know. Maybe it was the way he stood there, unyielding yet kind, in a world that rewarded cruelty. Lily May tugged at my sleeve. "Clara, he's different. Kinda handsome, too, in a rugged way. Think he's trouble?" I forced a laugh, light and dismissive. "All men are trouble, sugar. Best remember that." But inside, doubt stirred, a tiny flame in the cold hearth of my heart. What if he wasn't? What if, in this unforgiving land of hidden faces and broken vows, someone like Harlan Reed could offer something real? As the evening wore on, the saloon filled up again. Cowboys trickled in, dusting off their hats and hollering for whiskey. Old Jeb Harlan, no relation to the newcomer, just a grizzled prospector who'd lost his claim years back, slapped his cards on the table, grumbling about the outlaws. "Them varmints'll be back, mark my words. Sheriff Wilkins ain't worth a plug nickel." Madame Thorne hired Harlan on the spot, sending him out back to the stables. I watched from the balcony as he worked, his movements sure and unhurried, rolling up his sleeves to reveal arms corded with muscle from years on the trail. He didn't glance up, didn't seek attention, just did what needed doing. It unsettled me more than any leering stare ever had. That night, as I lay in my small room upstairs, the wind howling through the canyons like a lament, memories crept in uninvited. I remembered the day my father left me here, his rough hands pushing me toward Madame Thorne, the clink of coins changing hands. "Be good, Clara girl," he'd said, his eyes averted. "This'll square things." I'd been too young to understand, but old enough to feel the betrayal bone deep. Tears had come then, hot and endless, until I learned they changed nothing. Endurance became my creed. Men took, women bore it. Love? Just a fancy illusion to sell to fools. But Harlan's words echoed. "I've had my fill of taking what's not mine." What kind of man said that in a place like this? And why did his steady gaze make me wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than survival? The next morning, the town buzzed with talk of the raid. Sheriff Wilkins posted rewards for the outlaws, but everyone knew it was bluster. I stepped out onto the balcony, the crisp air biting at my skin, women tugging shawls tight as they hurried along the rugged trails. The smoky scent of campfires mingled with burning sage, a ritual some folks swore warded off evil. Abilene was alive with drifters and cowboys, but the approaching winter pulled everyone closer to their firesides. Seeking warmth in whatever form it came, Harlan was already at work, hauling crates into the storage shed. He nodded when he saw me. No words, just that simple acknowledgement. It chipped at my defenses, this constancy. Lily May joined me, her cheeks flushed. He asked about you this morning, Clara. Wanted to know if you were all right after the shootout. My heart stuttered. And what'd you tell him? That you're tougher than boot leather. She grinned, but there was envy in her eyes. Lily May still believed in fairy tales and a prince riding in to sweep her away. Me! I'd stopped believing long ago. Yet, as the day wore on, I found myself glancing his way when a rowdy cowboy got handsy with one of the girls. Sarah, a fiery redhead who'd been here longer than me. Harlan stepped in quietly, his presence alone diffusing the tension. "Easy there, friend," he said, voice low but firm. The cowboy backed off, muttering, and Sarah shot Harlan a grateful look. Madame Thorne watched it all with sharp eyes. "That one's got potential," she said to me later, as we prepared for the evening crowd. "But watch yourself, Clara. Men like him, they make you hope, and hope's a dangerous thing out here." She was right. Hope had died in me years ago, buried under layers of cynicism. But Harlan Reed? He was digging it up, one steady glance at a time. And that terrified me more than any gunfight. By evening, the saloon hummed with life. Piano music tinkled, cards slapped on tables, and laughter mingled with the clink of glasses. I moved through the crowd, my emerald gown swishing, offering smiles and light touches that promised but never delivered, at least not without a price. Harlan lingered in the shadows, fixing a loose board or tending the horses out back. He didn't partake, didn't drink, just existed. A constant in a world of transience. Then, as the lanterns flickered and the sky outside faded to purple, trouble brewed again. One of the outlaws from the night before, wounded but not dead, staggered in, bloodied and furious, demanding whiskey and revenge. "Where's that sheriff?" "I'll gut him myself," he snarled, drawing his pistol. The room froze. Lily May screamed and Jeb Harlan ducked under his table. Madame Thorne reached for the shotgun behind the bar, but before she could, Harlan Reed stepped forward. "You best leave, mister," he said calmly, his hand hovering near his hip. "Ain't no fight worth dying over tonight," the outlaw laughed, a ragged sound. "Who are you to tell me?" In a blur, Harlan drew, faster than a striking rattler. The shot echoed, the outlaw crumpling with a hole in his shoulder, disarmed but alive. Sheriff Wilkins burst in moments later, hauling the man away. The saloon erupted in cheers, but I stood rooted, my breath caught. Harlan holstered his gun, his face impassive, but his eyes met mine across the room, steady, probing, carrying a weight I couldn't name. In that moment something shifted. Fear? Curiosity? A spark of something dangerously close to attraction. Who was this man, this Harlan Reed, who fought not for glory but for peace? And why did he make me feel seen? Truly seen, for the first time in my life. As the night wore on, I couldn't shake him. My mind raced with questions, my heart a tangle of push and pull, wanting to run from this unfamiliar warmth, yet drawn to it like a moth to flame. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The outlaws weren't done with Abilene, and Harlan's past held secrets that would test us both. But for now, in the haze of smoke and perfume, I allowed myself a whisper of wonder. What if love wasn't an illusion after all? The wind picked up outside, howling through the canyons, carrying the promise of storms to come. I smoothed my dress, steeling myself once more. But deep down, I knew. The night that changed everything had only just begun.